This is the all-new Community Connection. I'm your host, Jade Harrell, keeping you connected to our community. Well, MICDS welcomes Brian W. Thomas as assistant head of school, and today, so do we. I have had the fortunate pleasure in meeting Mr. Thomas, and I wanted to make sure that you all had a proper introduction as well. So thanks for joining me today, Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to join you, and I'm very happy to be here, Jade. Thank you so much for hosting me today.
It's my great pleasure. Well, Mary Institute Country Day School has a long-standing reputation for excellence, and the mission statement aligns with that as well. Talk about how they acquired a rare gem like yourself.
Well, you are very, very kind. I was looking for my next opportunity in the San Francisco Bay Area. Just give a little background on myself. I grew up in Chicago, have been in education for more than 27, 28 years, and I was looking to either head another school or go on to whatever was the next opportunity for me. My old school was in the Oakland and Berkeley area of the East Bay of San Francisco. And I got this friend from a call from a recruiter who is a friend, Orpheus Crutchfield, another African-American man who said, and I quote, "Dude, you got to check out this school." And more than that, he was very complimentary about the school. And the thing that I say, I really wanted to choose some place where I felt not just comfort, but the people, that it would be the people that would be very important. So the next thing I know, the head of the school, Lisa Lyle, gave me a call. We had a great conversation. I then flew to St. Louis, a few phone calls after that, and I fell in love with the school. That is what set me on this journey. Had
you already been to St. Louis or had visited or done anything anywhere here?
I had never been to St. Louis. So,
yeah.
And to be honest with you, the only thing I knew is what I heard on the media, especially over the last couple of years, which has been tough for St. Louis in many ways, both inside and outside of the community. But I knew about this school in particular, and I knew one of my best friends, Jonathan Smith, growing up. He was the person that I aspired to be. He marched off to Princeton when I was a freshman in high school, and I said, "What the heck is Princeton?" So he is now teaching English at SLU, and his wife is associate provost at WashU. And I knew that they were here, and that signaled a lot to me, meaning that these people who are of great conscience were also really thinking about St. Louis, and they had been here for years and raised their daughters here, and it gave me at least the idea that I can explore it and be here.
Right, and that probably was where I was guiding my next question was, had you formed an impression or had an idea or perception about the area before you came? I know certainly I did. I'm from Denver. And when my husband said that we were moving to St. Louis, which is his hometown, I thought that I would lose oxygen. And I did. I said, there's no trees there. And that was a joke. But, I had an impression formed that I can't imagine what that would be like for the citizens, the young people, and most certainly the young African-American men who live here. To actually experience their existence is of a similar perspective and impression. So I'm glad that you had a reference point. And now that I am here, I most certainly try to be a reference point for anyone else. It's been great. And even in these last few years, through the pain and the scars, the turmoil and the heat, it has still been a tremendous place to live. And most certainly then, as we look at the opportunities in the independent schools, that there's certainly hope for our young people in education. So what brought you to education in the first place?
I was a teacher on the set of The Cosby Show. And that was my first introduction. So those kids, Tempest Bledsoe and Malcolm Jamal Warner, but Tempest especially was my student. And if you know anything about Tempest on the show, Vanessa, he maybe wasn't the most dynamic of the Cosby kids, but she was definitely the smartest. She graduated high school at 16, went to NYU. So those are the kids that I was used to teaching. So when I got my first full-time teaching gig, I was working as an actor before, but when I first got my first full-time teaching gig in 1990 in Los Angeles, pretty much it's been really dealing with kids who were pointing to college. Like a lot of us growing up, African American, white, Asian, whatever, our parents said, no, you're going to college. There was no question about it. So those have been the families and the kids that I have been working with the most. And So, and it's not just college, because there's a character piece too.
There you go. Talk about that character.
Here's MICDS's thing, is that character is a real big part of the mission of the school. The mission statement says, now more than ever, our nation needs responsible men and women who can meet the challenges of the world with confidence, embrace all of its people with compassion. Mm-hmm. That drew me into
it's a powerful mission statement. It's one that, many of us could guide our lives by.
Right.
And it means very much to us as a community, but even more broadly in our nation and world alike. So.
And you have to be inspired by words that will bring you in. I mean, the great speakers of the world, the I Have a Dream speech, that draws us in. And mission statements do the same thing. I think more schools should adopt inspiring mission statements that really pose dramatic questions, especially about what our community, what our democracy, and what our participatory government should be. And that is one of them, probably one of the keenest I've heard. And it's also one that resonates nationally. Yeah. People know about MICDS on a national level. And I know that that's important locally. And I know that there's like, oh, well, there's that school or this school. But MICDS, when I talk to other heads of school around the nation, they know it, they respect it, and they respect its leadership, particularly Lisa Lyle.
Oh, man. Don't even get me started about Lisa Lyle. She leads with it.
Yep.
And she's very impressive. I'd love to have a conversation with her as well. And you mentioned
I'm sure she would love to, too.
Oh, well, I'm going to. Well, then you got to pull her sleeve and say, give Jade about 15 minutes. She's real easy going. If you can help me work that out, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, I will.
But I think it's good that you mentioned how keen the mission statement is, how specific it is, because it speaks to core values and principles, but it also guides and leads the rest of the organization, the institution, in that direction. We all use that as our roadmap of why we are here each day at the school. Now, that's unique to MICDS, but it's also unique to the new leadership in Lisa Lyle as well. We're talking a 150-year-old institution.
Right.
So its origins did not look at all like it does today.
True.
Now, you being an African-American man, that has to speak also to not only the hope and goals of the school, but how far things have come. But let's talk about the significance of that for you being in place at this time.
Well, our country was founded, in very turbulent times. Everybody was not free who came here, right? And when we really talk about the missions of schools that are more than 100 or 150 years old, they do exclude many folks of color. It certainly excludes women. And that's not the country or the communities that we live in anymore. There may be people who hold on to sort of a time when they thought we were greater because those people weren't included. Or that's what many of us of color or folks that are women think about. Well, we weren't really included in that greatness. And I'm not political in this way at all. But I do believe that the school, the other part of the mission statement is the next generation must include those who think critically and resolve to stand for what is good and right. So, this mission statement is the last 20, 25 years, right? And that's where it stands right now. It is a school that is progressing, and our tradition has always been about innovation. It's been about thinking about what's going to be good for not just, these kids who are coming from this small area, although there are 60 different zip codes represented here. Right. And more than 90 different languages spoken in our households, the people who come from MICDS. So it's really important to understand that, like John Winthrop, who was one of the founders of our nation, he was a Pilgrim founder. He said, "We shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all the people are upon us." That's our mission too. That's what we do. And that's what we have to do. And that's what drew me as an African-American man. That promise drew me to the school.
Right. Well, I appreciate that as well. Now, you're also living the reality of being an African-American male. You were fortunate. You worked on the set of The Cosby Show, which was also determined to project a positive, hopeful image of African-Americans and their opportunity to thrive and live and have normal, healthy lives in America. And this is really, MICDS is a city upon a hill, literally, because here we are again. You let the latest news report show that here in St. Louis, we're among the top numbers of homicide and disparity. And I'm sure, I hope you've seen the Forsake of All report and the last Ferguson, the report from the Ferguson Commission. So all of that does literally exist, but we're fortunate to have seen things from another perspective. Has your reality differed from the places that you found opportunity as well? And can you maybe share a little bit about how you're able to bring that all together for a greater good?
And if I'm hearing you right, there's all of this disparity and all this hopelessness, but also here's this community that is holding out this beacon, this light on this hillside, as is St. Louis, right? The interesting thing that I've found in my 2 months here about St. Louis is that people are open. I play men's baseball, and so many people have received me in ways that I've wanted to cry, been tearful about it. People are open. People are open here at MICDS. People have been open in the larger community to St. Louis because they understand fundamentally that when you leave people out, we all suffer. We all suffer. So we can no longer do that. So the most powerful way to dismantle things that hold us all back as people is through education. Right?
I most certainly agree.
And our lives have to be really about lifting all of us up. Because if we don't, we're all going to perish together, right? That's what Dr. King said. So we have to continue to dismantle the things. And I'm not even going to talk about racism so much as I will talk about anything that holds us back. Addiction holds us back. Crime, violence within the African American community holds us back. That's what drew me to this town, really, and to this job, was the idea that one person in collaboration with many can make a difference. That's what pluralism is, right?
That's the only way that it can.
Right.
That's the only way that it can, because you could have come to an unwelcomed, resistive kind of environment simply because of what had existed as a way of thinking for many people who still hold values like that.
Right. And here's the thing too, Jade, which is, the people that are really feeling some degree of being left out or being misunderstood are white men, right?
Yeah.
And so the thing that I would say is that when everybody participates, when there is equity and fairness and justice for everybody, which is what we stand for, what we say that we stand for as a nation, we all do better. We all become, what I would say, more relevant. So my job is to figure out sort of curricularly what makes us all relevant, particularly those people who feel left out. Like, how can you be relevant in this next phase? Because in 2030, 2040, it's going to be majority minority. How can you be more relevant and participate fully within this democracy and feel a part of it as we go through this transition?
You've got a body of students from the youngest I've ever known, 4 years old, on up to seniors in high school, to guide in that direction.
Right.
What is your hope and determination as you step before this group of our future community and leaders?
My hope is that they see a way and a place to participating fully and actively and positively for everybody. So that young girl whose family is Muslim, how can she be seen within the fabric of, the MICDS community, St. Louis community, the American community? That young boy, that 4-year-old boy, young white male who's seeing all of these images on television. That's got to be really confusing. Yeah. How can I participate and be fully invested in everybody's growth, right? My classmates' growth, because we went through all of this stuff together, 14 years of school together. And those families who see sometimes education as being transactional. If I bring my kid to school and I pay you your tuition, then my kid will go to, Harvard or Yale or whatever. But education is not transactional. Just transactional. It's transformational. Right. We are here not to transact. We're here to transform lives. What our teachers, when we get students at our school, they leave better, brighter, with greater opportunity. And that's when we do surveys, that's what kids and families talk about. They talk about, wow, look at all of the opportunities my kids had here.
Right.
Look at these amazing teachers my kids were able to interact with, and they were able to, participate in the mock trial. I talked to some kids who were in mock trial yesterday, and they were so excited to talk to me about what it is that they do. And these were kids from various backgrounds. Nice. What kind of opportunity, the various opportunities that kids have access to, and how can we create even more opportunities for people as they go through their lives?
Yeah. Transformation is huge. If it happens through our children, we can expect exponentially more in their surrounding area with the people that they exchange with, their children and beyond. But we do also have to consider that there is a pretty tremendous transaction here. So we're talking a school that has a tuition that many people can't afford.
That's right.
There's a large group of people that will never realize the kind of environment and opportunities we just described here because of resources.
That's correct. That disparity.
Yeah. Can you talk a bit about that disparity?
Well, I have two thoughts that jump to mind. One is, I was a kid who grew up in the housing projects right outside Chicago, Harvey and Robbins, Illinois. Housing projects were in Robbins. And I could have never dreamt that in less than, we left the projects when I was 10 and moved to a solidly lower middle class neighborhood. I could have never guessed that in 8 years that I would be going off to Yale University. Right? So Yale, just like MICDS is thinking about giving opportunities to kids with financial assistance who are both, who are of color, not necessarily African American. And I would say the largest sort of bucket of financial aid will go to probably our majority or dominant culture kids. So lots of kids don't have the financial resources to be here, but who are smart and they're engaged and they want to be here, right? So I think of it as a way to guarantee excellence coming back into St. Louis and the St. Louis region, because when they come back here, they are so appreciative of what they've been given. If they're not, it is my fervent hope that I can convince them, just like people convince them, to be generous with the school and to give back. So that's the one thing, which is we are providing opportunity for people for that money. We are providing future doctors, future lawyers, future leaders within the St. Louis area and beyond. And I think the next thing in terms of just disparity, right, we can give models of change in terms of science and math. We can create summer opportunities for kids who maybe their family won't be here, but we can provide models of education that can then go into public schools or charter schools or other schools that are considering what are best practices, because we have them and have the luxury to do that here. So those are the two areas that I think MICDS can make a difference.
So that it's possible for sure. And I really am impressed by that, because one of the things that when we're talking about MICDS, some folks won't even take a second look because they think it's impossible.
That's right. It's like Harvard, right?
Yeah,
how many people are applying? But there are more and more people applying to Harvard, right?
Yeah. It's like, yes, darling, keep dreaming, But by stepping forward, then you do show that it's possible, that the opportunity is there. There's a space there. And certainly, you got to admit, Brian, that kind of like Barack Obama, you show that there is a place and a space for you. And I don't know if that carries a great deal of pressure for you. What are some of your challenges? What are some things that make your job tough?
my challenges are just what you stated. Barack Obama went to a very, very well-regarded and very pricey private school in Hawaii, right? Mm-hmm. And somebody in his family had the gumption to say, well, we can't really afford this, but maybe there's a scholarship, right? Right. So that's a challenge. Perception is a challenge. Perception of smart kids being a certain way is a challenge, because I think that people that have perceptions about things, I'm always wanting my perceptions to be challenged. I want people to prove me wrong, and I'm the first to admit when I've proven wrong. So people who are out there thinking about MICDS being for wealthy white kids in families that have always had privilege, but there are also families in that bracket who are really thinking about these issues too, right? And they're thinking about, how can we help? How can we contribute? There was a trustee that I sat in a meeting with yesterday who was like, I want to be a part of your courageous conversations because it's going to make me and my kids more relevant in the world, right? So my challenge is getting people to confront their own perceptions or misperceptions, to validate for themselves, right? To say, I think I was wrong about that place, right? I thought it was full of these kind of folks, but I never felt more welcomed in my life. What a marvelous gift. So that's one challenge. And the second challenge is being able to reach, just like I'm talking to you right now, a larger, wider audience of people and get the message out. So I do a lot of speaking about it and writing about it. I invite people to invite me in. I will come to the paint drying on the side of a barn if I will have at least a couple of people talking to me that I can talk to about the opportunities that exist here at MICDS and what education can actually do for people, because it's done that for me and my brother. My brother, who's, we're not MICDS graduates, but we had tremendous opportunity in private institutions that we would not have been there without somebody saying, you know what, whether that's affirmative action or something else, let's give them the opportunity so that we can transform a lot of lives, right? But that's return on investment.
There it is.
That's the biggest ROI there is.
That's right. That's right.
By giving some kid, and maybe it's a Hispanic boy, right, an opportunity to transform not only his life, but his community's life, and maybe his city's life, and maybe the country's life. And
that's how it happens. I mean, just even in your story and sharing your journey. I mean, look how many lives are being touched just even in this year. I got one more question, then I want to have you maybe share an invitation for folks to take a second look. But the final question I have, and man, you're delightful to talk to. I could talk to you all day. I can tell you that. But the final question I have is, what message of encouragement in the area of education that aligns with your value, your mission, can you send out here to the community that's listening?
Sure. Well, I think the most important thing is that education is not something static, that you go and you do worksheets and then you turn those in and you get grades and then you go to the next grade next year. Education is about transformation. And a lot of people find that in their churches or synagogues. They feel when they're there transformed. The best education really is about people coming in and saying, I don't really know what to expect, but I want it to be better. And that only happens in relationship. That only happens when people who are like-minded, who are driven by mission, together feel that something more and greater is possible, right? So what I'm talking about is that education should really be about transforming people's lives for the better. And my life was transformed for the better by my high school drama teacher, Pat Wozni, who was this Polish lady from Chicago. And she said, and she would not let go. She said, you can do better than this. Yeah. You can be better. Now, my mother had been telling me that all of my life, right? But she was a working mom.
It takes the Miss Pats of the world.
Yep. So Miss Pat told me I could be better, and I was, because I believed her.
That's right. And whether you think you can or think you can't, You're right. That makes all the difference. Well, Mr. Thomas, send out the invitation to our community to come take another look and learn more, connect with, align with, and discover something grand that is at MICDS.
Well, I would say the best way to do it is to come to an admissions event. Call the school, get on our admissions calendar, come by, because throughout this, this time, the admissions open house, which is junior kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, is October 29th from 9:30 to 12 p.m. And it's not a drop-in thing. You come in the beginning of the day, you get a personal tour of the campus, call us up, and you'll see sort of what the difference is and how welcoming the place is. So it's really important that open house date, October 29th at MICDS, that people understand that we are an inclusive community. We're a community that's really about educational excellence, and we're a community that has this national reputation about growth and improvement.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Brian Thomas, Assistant Head of School of Mary Institute Country Day School. MICDS has a new Assistant Head of School, and he's pretty awesome. Find out more. Visit micds.org to learn more about the school and the culture and the admissions process. But if anything, use it as a guide, a model to what you may hope for your children in their education and their schools. Thank you so much for being with us today, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Jade.
All right, that's it for this week. If you have questions or comments or have something you'd like to include in the community calendar, you can leave a message on our message box at 314-333-8369, 314-333-8369. And for more information about our show or any of our guests, you can visit us online and listen to the podcast at Spreaker.com. That's Spreaker.com, and search Community Connection with Jade Harrell. You all be blessed, do blessed, and take care.